Welcome to today's broadcast, you mighty earth-shaking, history-making, mountain-moving, giant-killing, demon-stomping, water-walking champion. I'm Pastor Glen, and I got off on a negative thing yesterday telling you about the sleeper cells and stuff in America. And really what I was trying to get at is we're living in times that the Bible has prophesied about, and we need strong people, okay? And so maybe just going to church, loving God, being a goody-goody is okay for some people, but I'm asking you to move into a new realm of authority and power and speaking the word of God and having manifestations from God that maybe you're not used to, so that we can stop some of the things that I've spoke about yesterday, all right? And if I offended you or scared you, I didn't mean to do that. I just meant to say, we're involved in things, thinking about stuff that are really not important, especially to the young people who are growing up and are going to have to live with some of the repercussions of some of the decisions that have been made in our government and stuff like that. All right. I very rarely give you a testimony about anything that happened. People's families are being put back together. People are being healed. Finance is coming into the lives of people who had no finance by hearing this podcast, okay? And the reason I don't give you testimonies is because I feel that just giving you the word is more important. My wife says, well, you should tell the people what's happening. So I'm going to read something to you. I told you that for a lot of people, I'm their pastor. Maybe they're on Monday through Friday. They're in retail. They're homeless. They're in the hospital. They're in law enforcement. They're truck drivers. They're shut-ins. And it's hard to listen to the podcast. I got that. Let me read something to you. This is from a brother Lawrence. I'm not going to give you his last name, okay? And I hope I can read this. Hello and greetings, Pastor Glen. As these days are as radio KTYM 1460. That was one of the last stations I was on that sold secular. So he used to listen to KTYM. That's how he found out about me. If I remember, that was before it was cut off, the air. Yeah, that's right. When I was on Skid Row as a Skid Row drifter in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous group, mentioned your name. Moreover, the CD that I kept has healed me. Okay, I used to send out free cassettes way back in the 80s, thousands of them, and then CDs when cassette tapes were finished, and now you can just get this free on your phone all the time, okay? So I'm not sending out any more free CDs. But anyway, he got the CD on healing, and it healed him, and through these years, and now this is my praise report today that I have my own place and bank account. And I'll tell you this, he sent an offering, okay? He was delivered, he was healed and delivered, got off alcohol, now has his own place. I'm reading this to you. I got this right around the new year. And now I am giving back to my Lord, my God, a praise report. Okay, I'm just going to stop there. But anyway, that's one guy that was helped. Some years ago, a police officer, LAPD, wrote me a letter. His thing was this. He would listen to my podcast at 5 in the morning. I used to be on KFSG, which was like the biggest Christian station in the world at one time. They also sold secular. Anyway, I was on till they sold, and I was on for years. He's a cop. Okay, so he listened every day. And so he goes to pull somebody over, and the guy won't, in a neighborhood, and the guy won't pull over. He keeps going, and he keeps going, and he's saying things through his mic through his loudspeaker and has the lights and the siren and stuff like that, the guy won't pull over. So it ends up like a medium speed or high speed chase in a neighborhood, and the guy pulls down a cul-de-sac, a dead end. He's trying to get away from the cop that's listening to my program. And so he goes very slow. So I say my friend, it wasn't my friend, I never met him, but my listener started going slower too, called in his plates and stuff like that, asked for backup, all that kind of stuff. And so the guy slowed down, and when the car was still going slow, he jumped out of the car and shot at the police car and shot this cop, I think in the shoulder and the chest. I don't remember. This is a lot of years ago, and ran into the neighborhood. Now, the guy in the car that shot, he didn't think he was capable. He thought maybe he'd die. And so what he did was he said he remembered my words that you're dwelling in the secret place of the Most High. You're going to be satisfied with a long life. The same stuff I'm telling you. He remembered some of the things I said. And as he heard the sirens coming, he backed out of the cul-de-sac and drove himself to the hospital and was writing me a praise report that he was fine. So you don't know what's happening on this podcast. You can also hear the podcast, not just the video stuff, the podcast on YouTube and Spotify and other places. So those of you that are standing with me in a financial way and in prayer and stuff like that, we're touching a lot of lives, okay? And I just read you one praise report that the guy got off, Brother Lawrence got off Skid Row out of Alcoholics Anonymous, got healed, got delivered, and now was able to send an offering of thanksgiving, okay? So, Rotherham's translation, I'm continuing from yesterday. All of a sudden, as I was talking to you, I looked at the time, and I was like over my time. I'm trying to keep my time the same as it was for radio for the 40 years I was on radio. Genesis 1, verse 2, translate, now the earth had become, King James says was. I told you about that yesterday. That word was could be translated had become. It's Hayah, and it also can mean became. So, and there was darkness on the face of the earth, on the roaring deep, and the Spirit of the Lord, Spirit of God, was brooding on the face of the water. In Genesis 1, we see the recreation of a dead planet. We don't see a planet brought into existence. Because some people are telling me, Pastor Glen, you know so much about pre-Adamics, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you tell us on that? Pre-Adamics are good to know, but they minister to the intellect of a man and a woman. And so I want to minister to your spirit and get your spirit stronger than anybody you know. Not just that you know have a bunch of knowledge that it's powerless. It's kind of powerless to know about the pre-Adamics. It's more important to know that when God raised Jesus from the dead, he made you a new creature, gave you a brand new nature, and that's why you're born again, because you've been recreated. But in Genesis 1, we see that the earth was recreated. It was a dead planet. So Satan must have wondered what God was doing on his prison on earth, right? So after the dry land was brought forth, God took clay and formed a body in his image, and it was lifeless, and Satan listened intently what God spoke over this clay mannequin-looking Gumby figure, right? In Genesis 1:26, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion. Satan's ears popped up when he heard dominion, 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 because he had the dominion to wreck the cities of the earth when he was cast down to the earth before Adam ever existed. Isaiah 45:18. And there's other verses that say that too. I don't have the verse in front of me, okay? But Satan's ears popped open, and God continued, have authority, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowls of the earth, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Well, Satan being a creep, that meant him. So God bent down and put his mouth on the nostrils of this clay figure that he had designed out of the mud, and breathed life into him, Genesis 2:17. And man was now a living God-class creature, spirit, soul, and body, made in the image of God. Wow. After woman was created, God commanded them in Genesis 28 to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Replenish could mean repopulate, but it also could mean restore it to its former condition before it was without form and void, Genesis 1:2. And we see that in Jeremiah 4:23, that he looked and the earth was without form and void. That wasn't a future thing. He saw the past, and he wondered about that. And so have dominion over the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea and the fowls of the air and every living thing that lives and everything that moves on the earth. That included every living thing in that verse, included have dominion over Satan. Satan couldn't believe it. A brand new earth, restored to perfection, at least in the garden, and now this mud man is going to rule it? He didn't like that one bit, right? It's important that we magnify three words that God told to Adam. He said, have dominion. That means lordship and sovereignty. Dominate the earth. Subdue it means make it yield. So God told Adam and Eve that there's a force on the earth that you have to make yield. It's against me. There's war. And then he said, keep the garden. And that word keep there, if you look it up, the first word is guard. Guard the garden from intruders and malevolent forces in Genesis 2:15. And so by these three words, it's clear that Adam had a full understanding that there was a rebellious force on this earth that was opposed to God, him and God, right? And so what I want you to know is that hasn't changed. There's still a malevolent or malevolent, whatever the word is, force on this earth that's opposing humankind, and that's the devil. And you got to find out what your authority is and make that dude yield. And you got to be one of the guys that saves America through your faith. I'm out of time. I love you. Be blessed, be healed, be prospered. Have a great day in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Pastor Glen. God's mighty word is building you up and giving you your inheritance. So keep building your faith and keep going strong with God. Be sure to tell your friends and family about this edifying broadcast. This broadcast is sponsored by Pillars of Faith and you, our faithful listening audience.